Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on theories of crime and deviance, looking at the work of Paul Gilroy. Paul Gilroy was the founding director of the study of race and racism at University College London and has written extensively on the experience of colonialism and the experience of Caribbean migrants in Britain from the 1970s to the current day. Some of his most noted works include There Ain't No Black in the Union Jack and The Empire Strikes Back. Gilroy is noted for his work in criminology, particularly his suggestion that there is a myth of black criminality in the UK. In this video, we're going to look at the work of Paul Gilroy and how it explains the overrepresentation of black Caribbeans and other minority ethnic groups in crime statistics. Critical of the impacts of colonialism, Gilroy suggests that for many Asian, African and Caribbean communities in the UK, the scars of colonial exploitation and imperialist violence remain fresh in the memory. Despite the mass migration to the UK from former colonies that had gained independence in the aftermath of World War II, the history of struggles against colonial rule in countries such as India, Nigeria, Ghana and the Caribbean led to the development of techniques to avoid exploitation and oppression. And according to Gilroy, much of this knowledge was transmitted to the UK with those that migrated in search of employment and opportunity. The protests, demonstrations and other forms of direct action taken prior to independence became part of the culture of the first generation of migrants into the UK. Gilroy states that the experiences of exploitation and oppression in the early waves of migration left many drawing parallels with the anti-colonial struggles they had already experienced. However, Gilroy argues that some communities were prepared for this and demonstrated political resistance to the exploitation they faced. Techniques such as marches, demonstrations, rallies and public disorder were an attempt to fight back against the oppression and racism that they had faced in the UK throughout the 1960s and 70s. Particularly in the 1970s, with the scapegoating of minority groups for problems in society, as we've discussed in our video on the work of Stuart Hall. The tensions that were created as the UK government and police tried to reassert control led directly to the riots in 1981 in Brixton, Toxteth and Bristol, with further tensions escalating in 1985 in Tottenham, leading to the murder of PC Keith Blakelock on the Bridgewater Farm estate, in a conflict that was sparked by the death of Cynthia Jarrett while police were searching her house. Gilroy suggested that the marches, demonstrations and riots were a form of political resistance against unfair and unequal treatment by the police and state. As highlighted in Hall's Policing the Crisis, the excessive focus on black males, the development of sus laws and the military policing of areas with high ethnic minority populations had led to rising tensions and the inevitable reactions against what was perceived to be racial profiling. As a result, this led to the overrepresentation of minority ethnic groups, particularly black males, in crime statistics, creating a myth of black criminality. According to Gilroy, the situation was often aggravated by the negative portrayal of black males within the police force. Ethnic minority groups were viewed with suspicion, according to Gilroy. This was mainly due to ill-informed propaganda from right-wing media sources, a rise of British nationalism such as the National Front, and through political figures such as Enoch Powell. These sources helped to fuel canteen cultures within the UK police forces, where stereotypical assumptions about black criminality were internalised by officers, which formed the basis of institutional racism in the police force. Now, Gilroy's ideas have many contemporary applications, not least to the rioting in areas of London and other UK cities in the aftermath of the police shooting of Mark Duggan in 2011. Furthermore, Gilroy's ideas can be revisited following the death of George Floyd in the USA and the reactions in the UK. A symbolic moment in the Black Lives Matter protests in the UK was the toppling of the Edward Colston statue, which was then thrown into the harbour. As Colston was a slave trader several hundred years earlier, it's easy to apply Gilroy's ideas that this was a sign of political resistance against a society in which black people were oppressed. And that's one of the positive evaluations of Gilroy's ideas. Despite analysing events 40 years ago, Gilroy's ideas are still influential in explaining the tensions between police and ethnic minorities in the 21st century. However, critics of Gilroy would suggest that not all black crime is politically motivated. Most crime is based within local communities and is undertaken against others from similar backgrounds, rather than being against those that oppress them. Whilst there is certainly some weight to Gilroy's ideas, it's clear that not all crime is politically motivated. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on theories of crime, examining the work of Paul Gilroy. Thanks for watching.